Hi, and welcome to the Woman of Faith in Leadership podcast. Today is Monday, the 12th of February, 2024. I wrote 2023 here. Can you believe that? 2024. I hope that's not happened to all of you. We're still writing 2023 on your calendars. Well, I'm talking to you today about engaging a faith-aligned mentor. Now, have you ever considered engaging a mentor or a coach to support you in your leadership role? Perhaps your line manager is your mentor or someone else at work. I had the privilege of having many wonderful line managers that were also mentors to me and who just really taught me so much. And the first mentors that kind of came to mind to me was when I was only 20 years old. I was working as a personal assistant at a medical training company, and I was working for a doctor and a paramedic, and the two of them just really took me under their wing and mentored me. And some of the skills that I have today is truly a testament because of their mentorship and their patience with me as a 20-year-old. So, there was many others as well that I can mention. One of my most recent ones was the previous workplace where I was at, and I want a wonderful mentor who just really saw the potential in me from the moment that I had the interview. And about 2.5 years in, this person left, and I was gutted to lose my mentor. But it was just such an amazing experience, and it wasn't only the fact that there was life experience in there, shared in terms of life experience, but it was also the fact that I could just be myself, and I could share a frustration, and I could share the joys, and this person would share it with me, but then give me advice, give me guidance, and it wasn't necessarily someone that I could vent to, but it was someone that I could just say that, okay, I need help in this instance. It was interesting because I read in a recent article in the Forbes magazine, and it said, having a mentor is more than just setting and achieving goals. It's about having someone in your corner who can provide valuable feedback, encouragement, and support to help you grow both professionally and personally. And this is exactly what I experienced. So in this episode, I'd like to discuss the topic of engaging a faith-aligned mentor. Let's do it. As Christian women in leadership, we often find ourselves struggling with the balance between implementing faith-based leadership principles and the worldly perspectives of our colleagues and team members. You once felt passionate about leadership, but have often come up against people with fixed mindsets who are unwilling to change. You feel like giving up and stepping out of your leadership role because, is it really worth it? Friend, you're in the right place. Here we're not only going to talk about the challenges, we're going to tackle them head on with a faith-based approach that's both practical and empowering. So, if you're ready to transform your leadership journey, to set boundaries that make a real impact, and to create a workplace culture where both you and your team can thrive, then join me in uncovering the strategies, wisdom, and godly guidance that will lead you to success. I'm Rika, Whelan, and welcome to the Woman of Faith in Leadership podcast. Together, we're going to navigate leadership with faith as our foundation. Let's get started. Grab your coffee or water, keep that notebook and pen handy, and let's jumpstart your leadership. Before we jump into the topic, I would like to read a review from Rosie of the International Christian Woman and Her Teacher Voice podcasts. And Rosie says, we definitely need more podcasts like this one. As a woman leader, I know I can resonate with a lot of the challenges presented in this podcast, and I appreciate the solutions you give. Thank you so much for starting this podcast, your new friend and fellow podcaster. Thank you very much for the 5-star review, Rosie. I really appreciate that. And if you get value from this podcast, can I please ask you a huge favor? It would do me a tremendous pleasure if you would leave me a review on Apple Podcasts. So you can leave the review or the star on Spotify, but you can't leave your review there. So I can't read out a review if you leave it on Spotify because you can't put any words in there. So I'd really appreciate it if you could jump onto Apple Podcasts. You can actually create an Apple ID without having an Apple device if that's not something that you do have. And you can leave me a review there. and I can be sure to read that out for you. Now, the other huge favor you can do for me is to join our community, join our Facebook community. So you can go onto Facebook and search Women of Faith in Leadership Community and come and chat there with me and everyone else that's already in the group. Otherwise, I will pop the link in the description below for you, and you can just click on it and go there easily. Okay, so when I started doing a little bit of research on mentorship and in terms of what that looked like, the first kind of mentor relationship, because I was looking in the Bible specifically as well, kind of the first relationship that came to my mind was Elijah with Elisha, and the mentorship relationship, mentor-menteeship relationship that they had between the two of them. But as I dug deeper, I found actually that there was a lot of mentor-mentee relationships in the Bible. So Jethro mentored Moses, and then Moses mentored Joshua and the elders of Israel, and then Joshua mentored the other remaining leaders of the army. Eli mentored Samuel. Samuel mentored Saul and David. And then Elijah mentored Elisha, and Elisha mentored King, I'm going to hope I pronounce this correctly, Jehoash and others. Daniel mentored Nebuchadnezzar, who humbled himself before God. Mordecai mentored Esther, and Esther mentored King, I cannot pronounce this name, Xerxes, I think so, which led to the liberation of God's people. Apologies if anybody's listening and they know how to pronounce these names correctly, and I do not, so that's my apologies. Priscilla and Aquila mentored Apollos. And finally, Jesus mentored the 12 apostles who established the Christian church. The apostles mentored hundreds of other leaders, including Paul, and Paul mentored Titus, Timothy, and many others. So we can see that the mentor-mentee relationship actually goes back many years. It's not a new concept. It's not something that, is new. But I think what is new is the term coach. So there's a lot more coaches popping up. You don't need a qualification to be a coach. Some people do choose to go and do a qualification through the International Coaching Federation or Association. But there's actually quite a lot of coaches popping up. And I think for me, when I was thinking about this topic and thinking about it now, I think when we decide on a mentor, we really have to, number one, always pray about it. I think the first thing we always have to do is pray about it. Come to God and say, is this the person that I need to learn from? And I recently had a situation where someone came on my path, and I really felt connected to this person, but I had to go and seek first and foremost from the Lord whether this person was going to be the person who was going to mentor me. I felt that I really wanted to learn from that person, but remember, it's not just about what I learn, it's about the other person also have to give up their time. So I think when it comes to mentorship to me is something that's free. So, if I think about, this term of coach that's come up, coach is usually someone that you would pay to coach you to get through a situation, and then that would be it. That would kind of be the end of the relationship. Whereas a mentor to me is someone that's a bit more long-term. So I've had mentor relationships that's gone on for 2.5 to 3 years or even longer. And I think the beauty of a mentor-mentee relationship is the fact that it's give and take. It's not just you taking from the mentor, just learning, but it's also the mentor learning in that same space and then adjusting the way that they mentor you according to how you've grown. So specifically, I think when we're seeking out mentors, and for us as Christian women, it can be quite tough because, there's so much stigma surrounding women in leadership. There's so much stigma surrounding men in leadership. So, for example, my thought processes runs to, as a woman of faith in leadership, or as a woman in leadership, I wouldn't want to be mentored by a man in the workplace. That's something that just literally popped up to me as a bias. But in actual fact, I've been mentored by men in leadership that have been wonderful and that have also been Christian. So I think that was the turning point, or that's the difference for me, is that they were Christian. And that we didn't only talk about work, we didn't only talk about leadership, but we also talked about our faith, we talked about our children, it was personal and professional. And I think that's what made the relationship for me in terms of mentorship so successful. It wasn't a one-size-fit-all situation, because I definitely know that this leader was also mentoring someone else. So I think the second point I'm trying to make is when you are seeking out a mentor, and especially a faith-aligned mentor, because that's the point of the whole podcast, is definitely have a look if their faith is aligned with yours. And if it's just going to be a kind of like a one-size-fit-all situation where they're not going to be flexible, then I don't think it'll work. But the tricky bit is that how will you know that before you step into the mentor relationship? I think that is a tricky bit. So my suggestion here would be is if you are seeking out a mentor at work or at church or in a leadership group or in a networking group, my suggestion to you would be is go and chat to that person first. So you might have an inkling. So I had an inkling at the end of last year that I might want to be mentored by this person that came on my path. And I had a conversation with this person. I said, look, you've got a lot of knowledge that I can learn from. Is mentoring me or mentoring someone something that you would be interested in, or something that you have time for? And then I shared exactly what I was looking for in that relationship, because when you are engaging a mentor and you are asking of their time, they might not know what that time commitment might look like, and they might say no even before they have listened to you. So say, I'm looking for 30 minutes a week, 30 minutes a fortnight, 30 minutes a month that I can just pick your brain, or if I'm excited or if I'm frustrated, that I can give you a call. I understand that there will be boundaries in place. And for me, that's worked really well. So then this person has now, I know that they don't have a lot of time available, but they're available enough. So they're faith aligned with me. I've prayed about it. I felt comfortable, but they also said yes, and I said yes. We didn't sign a mentorship agreement, something official, because I didn't feel like that was necessary, and I'm also not paying that person. And yes, I think the thing with mentorship is that we have to remember that before we can seek out a person, it has to feel right for that person as well, not just for you. And so you have to pray about it. You have to make sure that they're faith aligned. And then you have to talk to that person and make sure that they're aligned with the mentor-mentee relationship as well. So when we think about Elijah and Elisha's relationship, for example, Elisha was there until the very end when Elijah went with a chariot of fire to heaven. But I think if I think about that relationship, I think about everything that Elisha gave up to learn from Elijah. And I'm not saying you have to give up anything, or you have to leave your job, or you have to do this or that. But the point being is that sometimes we have to give up a little bit of ourselves to learn from other people. And that can be tough, because we just want to get this person to help us. We just want to get this person to tell us what to do. But that's not how mentor and mentee relationship works. Sometimes we have to give a little bit of ourselves to make it work. And sometimes we have to give up things that we're already doing, because another person, or the external person, the mentor, can see the things that we're doing wrong. And I think the beauty of a mentor-mentee relationship is the fact that it's an outside person looking in. And sometimes that's all we need as someone who's really struggling with a situation. You're so stuck in that situation that you cannot see left, right, or center, up or down. You can't see the way forward. But then someone comes, like, it makes me think of Alice through the looking glass. It's like someone looking through and just seeing what are the possibilities or what things need to change. So our relationship in terms of that mentor-mentee relationship, our attitude really is what I want to use, needs to be flexible. We need to be so flexible within our thinking when it comes to the mentor-mentee relationship, because that person will mold you, that person will shape you, and they will eventually, you will potentially, and eventually is the word I'm looking for, change because of this relationship. And change is a good thing. Change is really a good thing, especially if it's for the good, especially if it's for the better. So, yeah, the thing with mentor-mentee relationships, and I think what I want to finally say for you guys or for you ladies listening, is that make sure that when you are seeking out a mentor, that it's the right person. And just truly go and pray about it. Make sure that it's faith aligned. Make sure that it's right for both parties, and that you're willing to give up a little bit and to be flexible and to have an attitude of learning, because there's nothing worse than mentoring someone and they have a bad attitude, or they have an attitude of, well, I already know this, you don't need to tell me that. And I've worked with many such people. I've mentored many people in leadership as well. And when they have an attitude of, well, I already know that, then there's nothing worse in a mentor-mentee relationship than that. So I'd really like to invite you, if you have not engaged in a mentor yet, to engage one and to really think about what the improvements can be to your leadership and to your faith. Because remember, it's not just you can gain a mentor just for your leadership, but it's more about that. It's about your faith, it's about your personal life, it's about you as a person that can improve. And the question that's popping up in my mind right now is that if I was you listening, I would ask, but where do I find this mentor? Well, I think that's another space where you can really pray to God to send you one, to send somebody on your path. They might already be in your life and you've just not realized that they would be a perfect mentor for you. It might be someone at church, it might be someone at work, it might be a colleague. And I think if you really go and pray about it, then God will show you, and he will show you which person that is. And sometimes we just have to wait. So sometimes we pray, but we don't get an answer straight away because the timing is not right. So if you don't think that there's someone in your life at the moment, then ask God to send you one. And then you have to be patient and wait for this person. But mentorship is so important. We see that in the Bible, there were many, many, many people who mentored each other, many people who worked together, and many people who had to change who they were because of the mentorship relationship. The mentor-mentee relationship is going to be crucial for you to grow as a person, to grow as a leader, to grow in your faith. And I've had many mentors in my faith as well, even if I didn't know that person. So, for example, where I've engaged or where I've listened to other people's podcasts, that's a mentor to me. It's a person who I'm learning from. It's a person who's teaching me things that I didn't know. So you can definitely do a face-to-face or Zoom mentorship relationship with someone, or a one-way, which is a type of what the podcast is. It's a one-way mentorship. Or you can definitely then engage a mentor that's closer to home. That's with you, somebody that you can just pick their brain very quickly, and that you have direct access to. So yeah, I'd really like to invite you, if it sounds to you as if I am someone that you can work with, or that you would like a mentor-mentee relationship with, then I'd like to invite you to contact me. Just make contact with me. We can have a chat about it. And I'd love to mentor you. I'd love to work with you on a leadership level, on a faith-based level, on a woman of faith in leadership level. That's truly what my passion is, and that's the calling that God gave me. And if you haven't listened to my very first episode where I share about my calling, where the Lord called me into the women's ministry, and I was so sure that he meant in a church. But then when I got shown that I had to do this podcast for women of faith in leadership, the penny dropped that this is my calling, is this podcast, and serving all of you as a woman of faith in leadership. And we all know that being a woman in leadership is already very tough, but then a woman of faith in leadership just has that extra little edge. But God is with us. He holds our hands every day, and he gives us the tools to get through every single day. So just contact me. My email address is support@rikawhelan.com, or you can book a call directly into my calendar, actually. So I will put the link for you in the description below. And if any of this resonates with you, please feel free to join the community. That's the last thing that I'd like to remind you of, is come and join the community. I'm there. And if you've got a question, I'll answer your question. And I recently had someone even contacting me on LinkedIn, asking me a question, and I answered the question. And then I did a podcast about it. So definitely get into contact with me, DM me. I'm not so much on Facebook and Instagram as what I am on LinkedIn. So if you want to connect with me on LinkedIn, you can also do that and then send me a DM. But if you do send me a direct message on Facebook or Instagram, I'll still get it. But that's not my preferred platform. I prefer LinkedIn for all the professionals. That's where all the professionals hang out. I've got nothing against Facebook and Instagram, of course. But yeah, that's me, and that's the episode for today. And I really hope that you got some value from that, because that was the whole point of it. I'm really relying on God to share the message with you through me. I'm an instrument, and instead of over preparing my notes like I did way back when in the beginning of the podcast, I'm now really trusting the Lord to share with me and give me insights of what He wants you to know, because it's all about you. It's about your amazing journey as a woman of faith in leadership, and I'm here to support you in that. So please feel free to email me, contact me, DM me, whichever way, just connect with me, and I look forward to chatting with you again in the next episode. Bye. Thanks so much for listening. If this podcast blessed you in some way, the number one way you can thank me is by leaving a review. Your feedback means the world to me and lights me up every single time when I read it. And it makes me want to keep going. So please leave a review, and your review will also help other Christian women in leadership find the answers they are looking for. So whether you're on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, scroll down to the review section and leave that review. Then head over to womenoffaithinleadership.com and join our free Facebook community, and I look forward to engaging with you there.